the last drops of the summer wine, clutching straws by the riverside, and I look into your eyes, and autumn's
I think a very warm evening as well at the Arts Centre, and for a fantastic evening. A huge thank you to Simon for making the journey to Swindon. Before we talk, we found a little something, in fact I will name the person afterwards who did, which is a bit of evidence of some of the work of Simon, but we go back just a few years, and I don't think, Simon, you've actually seen this, so if you'd like to turn your heads to the right, just for about 2 minutes, take a look at this.
I hate to say it, and actually what I love to say it, here's another of my records of the week. From Simon May, it's at number 7 this week, The Summer of My Life.
drinking up the last drops of the summer wine, clutching straws by the riverside, into your eyes, and autumn's getting near. I was born with a smile on my face, the home of my life being a pantomime, born with the need to embrace.
Every loser wins once the dream begins. In time you'll see fate holds the
That's the easy part. You must keep it going. Everyone can fall in
sensation of all. There is much more to life than you'll ever know. The rise and fall.
But these days, if there's one thing that gets on Simon's wick, it's this.
Up next here on BBC One,
The theme song used to be and should be still, I think, where you can relax and say, okay, well, let's enjoy the title music instead of, and tomorrow night you can see all the talking over.
Ladies and gentlemen, an evening with Simon May. What did you think and how did you feel seeing it?
Well, yeah, it goes back a few years, that clip of Summer of My Life, and that was a very special year, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, when you see it all cumulatively, you realise that over the years you maybe have achieved more than you realised, and yeah, I'm really proud of all of those pieces. I haven't really, whenever anybody asks me what's my favourite piece of music that I've ever written, I always say it's the next piece, rather than going back in the past. Do you know what I mean? Do you have that same feeling? Yeah.
There's always something new for you because it's such a prolific life you've had with regard to your writing. But of course, starting with EastEnders, it's the one we've been talking about at the moment. Let's go from there first of all. But how do you get a role? How do you get a request to compose something for a programme like that? How does it come about?
Well, I've always had a passionate belief that you should say yes to everything. And I can remember when I was a songwriter at ATV Music, I was very lucky to have the big hit with Summer of My Life. And there was an elderly gentleman in the back office of ATV Music, a guy called Leslie Osborne, and all of the young, cool writers completely ignored him. But he said to me, "Simon, do come in and have a cup of coffee with me." one day, let's talk. And I did that. And as a result of that, he and I became friends. And he invited me to write a piece of drama music for one of his mates, Jerry Glaister. And it was actually a piece of music called Cold Warrior. I don't know if any of you remember that series with Michael Dennison. Any of you remember that? It was a thriller series. And I wrote the music for that allegedly with Leslie, or when I say allegedly, I mean he basically got me the gig, and I wrote the music, and we allegedly wrote it together, but that's another story. As a result of which, Tony Holland, who was the script editor, heard the piece, loved it. He was the script editor on Cold Warrior, and when BBC were developing what was then called East 8, not East Enders, it was called East 8, and he said, Simon, would you like to write and pitch for the East 8 theme for Julia Smith? And the point of this story, Shirley, is that by saying yes to everything, you know, all the cool writers at ATV Music, why are you going to the back room to have a conversation with an 80-year-old guy who isn't really part of the scene? As a result of being up for that situation, it resulted in me writing the EastEnders theme. And whenever I'm with young people, I can see some young people coming into the room now. Hi guys. How you doing? Because you've just come in time for my first big lesson and plug of the evening. And that is that when I'm talking, particularly to students, and I'm trying to motivate them to do their very best in their careers, and my killer question, and guys, sorry to embarrass you, you've just come in, but how do you spell the word no?
Which meaning?
Ah, that's the question.
K-N-O-W.
Very good, but it's not the right answer. The pretty girl who's on your right, well, how would you spell no? N-O. You see, when you're talking to a client, and John, who writes with me, is here tonight, and we're always fighting the odds and trying to get gigs with new clients. And I hear the word no more times than I hear the word yes. So when a client declines our services, I turn to John, as I'm turning to you young guys, and I say, the way that you spell no is Y-E-S. That's how you spell no. I do not understand the word no. It does not exist in my vocabulary. And that's my advice to all people of whatever ages, particularly young people. Daisy, our youngest daughter, has just signed to an agency as an actress, and fortunately she's just got her first part in a series of Lewis. But I have coached her and mentored her for many years as she went through college, and explained to her that in show business it is one of the most challenging professions that you go into, and if you cannot handle rejection, you should not be in that business. How did we get into that conversation?
So our conversation's all over. We're talking about pink elephants next, weren't we? It's the way life goes. We're going back away then, Born in Devices,
Yes.
and your heart is really there, and Dance's School is also a very big part of your heart, isn't it?
Very much so, and I still go back there occasionally, and I'm very honoured to be the patron of the Wiltshire Stedford, and I'll be going there in November. And I can remember, am I allowed to go to the piano?
Please do.
Because I can remember when I was 6 years old, I actually wrote the EastEnders theme. Think about that. My piano teacher, Mrs. Alderman, who was then called Anne Lake, and I wanted to please her all the time. So first thing we did was the associated grades scales. I'm still making mistakes. Oops. And I said, son, you've got to stick to this and please your piano teacher. And whenever any young person says to me, why should I play my scales? I have to say to them, well, you never know. It might earn you a few pennies one day. Think about it. In other words, EastEnders is going up the scale. And the other rather funny thing about the EastEnders theme is a lot of people have said to me, Shirley, that it's a very, very simple theme. And it is. But there's one part of EastEnders that you wouldn't realise actually makes it different from... If you were writing the EastEnders theme, you would write, here's the top line. What would you expect after that? That's the logical thing to do. And I was writing at home, we'll get to chord sequences later on if we may, but I was writing the theme at home. At which point, Rosie, my dear wife, came in and said, "Simon, can I have your American Express? I'm going to Harrods." And I was like, oh my God, and I'm just recording the theme. And instead of doing, I hit a wrong note because I was getting worried about Harrods, and I went, that's a nice mistake. So that's not true at all. It's a nice story, isn't it? My wife wrote the passing note because when you're writing a tune, you have to have surprises. And if you think about it, that's not as good, is it? And the middle eight, which only comes out on Sundays, here's the thing about theme songs. When I wrote the original middle eight of EastEnders, it was... And that took 22 seconds. And the producer said to me, "Simon, we have not got time for 8 bars. You can't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. It's all over." So I had to shorten the middle 8. Instead of doing what I just played, I had to play. Which is so much shorter. And actually less is more.
The tune actually changed a few times, didn't it? They wanted to spruce it up, slow it down, so they actually still played with it even after the first production of it.
Yeah, I think it was in about 1993. There was every time there's a new executive producer of EastEnders, they all want to make their mark and they come in with new instructions and leave their imprint on the show. So new producers came in '93. They summoned me to Elstree and said, "We want actually you to create a soul cool version." And the soul version, any of you remember that, guys? Anybody remember the soul version? No? Okay. I think I'll rest my case because it wasn't well received. The thing about the original EastEnders theme, amongst other things, was that, and we're looking at this, what's this lovely dog called? Amara. Let's just try and experiment. Yeah, Amara has woken up because I've been whistling. Did you all see that? The dog woke up. And the thing about the EastEnders original tune was the whistle at the end. That lovely dog's looking at me thinking I've gone mad. But when we did the new soul version, we didn't have the whistle. And I promise you, I got about 500 letters of complaints from dog owners saying my dog doesn't watch EastEnders anymore because because it's missing. And I don't know if any of you read in the papers in the last day or two that the high frequency is what dogs actually get that we as humans don't. So when EastEnders first came out, it was dogs and babies that would go to the screen drawn by this high frequency whistle. Everybody put it down to the genius of Simon May, but it wasn't. It was just the whistle.
Giving your secrets away.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, many of the TV theme tunes. Howard's Way was another, which was a classic, wasn't it? It started
Yes.
with a brilliant theme tune,
Yeah.
and that too, like EastEnders, ended up being recorded with vocals.
Yes, and at the time, I'd always been a massive fan of Marty Webb and Don Black, who'd written the lyrics for Born Free and the James Bond films and stuff like that. Very, very... I mean, I write lyrics. I love writing lyrics, but I thought, no, if I'm going to get Marty Webb, it would be politically appropriate to ask her manager who writes lyrics to write the lyrics for Howard's Way. The actual... I'd written the lyrics to Howard's Way. In the first... Can I do it on the piano again, Shirley? On the very first series, we just had the instrumental. instrumental with brass and full orchestra. In the second series, Jerry Glazer, the producer, wanted a vocal version. And I wrote the lyrics before asking Don. And here's an interesting one, talk about positive thinking. My original lyrics for Poet's Way were almost there. Talk about positive thinking, almost there isn't as positive as always there. And Don Black said to me, Simon, I don't like almost there, it's too negative. Why don't we change it to always there? Shall I give you a little leave of Howard's Way? This is the instrumental version of the vocal version, if you get what I mean.
Zooming off into the distance. That was gorgeous, wasn't it? Music is so evocative, isn't it? And the right piece and the right music can make or break a programme.
Yes, I mean, the power of music. Sorry, I'm going to have to go back to the piano just to demonstrate this.
I should feel very lonely.
The power, only for 5 seconds, Shirley, because I'll just show you how powerful music is, how quickly it will evoke an emotion. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? The wedding march. Just that fraction of a second.
All the men cringed at that point.
Well, and also, you know, I always take great pleasure because when I'm meeting people for the first time, we talk about what we do and they say, "What's your job?" I say, "Oh, I write music." Have you written anything that I'd know? I say, yeah. They say, "Okay, tell me, sing me what you've written," and I go, "Dum." And they go, "Oh, he's done this." Yeah. So it's the quickest way of actually telling some. Music is the most powerful, and what I love about music with its power, Shirley, is that it's a bit like gardening and cooking and music. They are the three things that cross and transcend every class. I can talk to a 15-year-old black kid in Harlem about soul music, or I can talk to somebody at Glyndebourne about an opera, and the fact is that music has something that crosses all those boundaries, and gardening's the same. You can talk to anybody about the roses they're growing, and you can usually talk to anybody who cooks. Yeah, how many of you are cooks? Great. You can talk to anybody about a recipe, and it doesn't matter where you live or where you come from or whatever your demographic.
Passion of yours from a very young age, and you managed very easily, didn't you, to get into Cambridge University, where you actually really pursued the subject more.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say easily. I mean, in those days, if you wanted to be a choral scholar at Cambridge now, you'd have to pass the exams. And I got a really, really bad set of A-levels when I was at Dauncey School. I'm embarrassed to say I've got 3 Ds. And that wouldn't have got you into any university. But in those days, if you couldn't work your way into Cambridge, or talk your way into Cambridge, you could sing your way in, and that's what I had to do. It was the third best thing. And so I got a call scholarship to Cambridge, and that was the start of my whole career.
Was it good times at uni? Did you enjoy being a student?
Well, Freddie, our youngest boy, he's at Nottingham University, and he came back the other day and said, "Dad, do you realise there are more girls at Nottingham University than there are boys?" I said, "Oh, lucky you," because when I was at Cambridge, there were 10 boys to every one girl. There was Girton College, Newnham College, and the Teacher Training College, and everybody else in Cambridge was a boy. Bloke, so it wasn't very favourable odds. So in answer to your question, the first year wasn't necessarily, not the happiest year of my life, no, to be honest, and it was very competitive.
But good experience, good opportunities. Like whilst at Kingston Grammar School, you actually wrote, and you wrote something, or got involved with a production, that led on to quite an impressive musical, which is still with us today.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely thrilled. You're referring, of course, to Smike, which is based on the story of Nicholas Nickleby. And when I was teaching at Kingston Grammar School, the headmaster called me into his office and said, "Simon, I know you teach French and German, but we're not getting very good music results in the schools." So Neil Fox, by the way, who's Magic Radio DJ, who I'm sure you all know, he was one of my pupils at the time, and I said, "Neil, do me a favour, mate, get all the boys in to lunchtime so that I'm, getting my brownie points with the headmaster." And they all came in for lunchtime, and I started trying to get them to sing, and it was a total disaster. I mean, they just were not interested in the theory of music. So I thought the only way that I'm going to capture these kids is to write a musical. So I said, "Boys, come back next week, I'm going to write a musical, and I'll have the first song ready for you when you come back next week." And I sort of thought, what's the best plot? Charles Dickens, Nicholas Nickleby, story about a young teacher. There was a kind of metaphorical parallel with myself because I was a young teacher. Didn't have the first clue what I was going to do with these pupils. So the first song that I wrote them was when Mr. Nichols goes into the school. How many of you know Smike, by the way? Oh, that's great. Nice show of hands. And the actual hook of the chorus was, "You think you've got a better song than me, then go ahead and sing. At least the tune I'm calling now has got you following. But here I am, looking for my name, don't understand. So how can I explain? Stick around, you will have found this place will never be the same again." And the place was never the same again. The boys got that song. They were singing la within seconds of me playing that. And they came back the next Friday, and the club grew every week. And every week I had to come up with a new song for Nicholas Nickleby, for Smike. And that's how the show happened. No pressure. And it was delightful. We performed it, and a friend of mine got the head of children's TV at BBC Television to come and see the musical in Surbiton. She loved it. BBC put it on as a major production, and that was the start of my career.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the students themselves, what do they get out of it?
Well, Neil Fox got a long career in broadcasting. Richard Dodd's got a gold medal at the World Olympics in Seoul Olympics, and he was another of my singers. And all of the Smike kids had very special careers, and I still keep in touch with them.
Fantastic. Even to today. An inspiration for young people is something, it's a passion of yours too, isn't it? You actually work with young people too.
Yeah, I do. In fact, until last year when things got really hectic, I was teaching 1 day a week at a special needs school in Woking, and I learnt an awful lot about myself as well as about other people. And apart from, it's a drop in the ocean. I was teaching 100 kids who had very, very special needs, from autism to Down syndrome to special learning difficulties to ADHD. Although I'm not a fan of ADHD, for me, one of the boys would come up to me and say, "Mr. May, I'm not going to do what you say because I've got ADHD." And I said, "That's what I used to call a naughty boy." But that said, I so enjoyed it. For 7 years on every Monday I went back to this special needs school. I still keep in touch with them, and every Christmas I go back and play the piano for carols and stuff. And not only did I learn a lot about myself, I learned about strategies. which apply to our situation. I've already said John Brad, who's with us tonight, who writes with me. And half of our life is not spent writing music, but selling it. And I learned one thing from these kids at a very early stage when I started teaching at the school. What actually happened was that there was one particularly naughty boy called Luke who just kicked in at every lesson. He would not do what he was told. And I learned a strategy with him that instead of getting up and shouting at him and telling him he was being defiant, my strategy was, Luke, understand you're a bit stressed today, so I'd like you to stop standing up and ranting around the classroom. I'd like you either to sit there or there. It's your choice. And he'd go, my choice, I'm in control. So he would sit there or there. But the main thing is he'd sit down. And I've sort of taken that strategy over into my work so that whenever we have a pitch for a piece of music with whatever client for TV or whatever, I always offer them 2 pieces of music. I don't say, do you like my piece of music? I say, well, you can have this or that. And like Luke, they very often say, oh, I'll have that. But they have it, and they take our music. So what a blessing it was going to that school and learning lots of stuff like that.
Clever ploy.
Very clever. There's am I allowed to say a very funny story?
Go on
Because
then.
my first year teaching at the school, these Asian boys were awesome, and I had a lot of fun with them, and the Asian girls as well. And there was one day that this boy Ramiz, his brother phoned up the school and said, I need to talk to the head teacher. And the secretary said, you can't speak to the head teacher. He said, I need to teach to the head teacher. This is really, really urgent. She said, we cannot put any calls through, even from family, to the head teacher because she's at meetings and stuff. He said, it's really important. She said, what is the problem? He said, well, Ramiz has nicked my cigarettes and I don't know where they are. And when you get to that kind of level of stupidity, you start to chill and realise that life shouldn't be taken that seriously.
How seriously did you take it when you were asked to write for Crossroads? There's another long-running series. Who watched Crossroads?
Oh, loads of hands.
Series characters. Benny, who else do we have?
Oh, Benny. Do you remember Benny's theme, everybody? I was sitting watching the late Kenny Everett, and I was with my family, and it was Kenny Everett's worst moments on television, and we were all sort of having a glass of wine and laughing, and there were some very embarrassing moments with all of these singers who sung out of tune that came up on the clips, and suddenly Simon May comes on the screen singing We'll Gather Lilacs. Any of you remember me singing We'll Gather Lilacs on Top of the Pops? What actually happened was the Musicians Union went on strike.
Because of that? I know it wasn't a great success, but even so.
No, well, what actually happened was that the record went into the charts in the top 50. This is my version of We'll Gather Lilacs. And the promotion guy said, Simon, I've got you on Top of the Pops. I said, how amazing, because you don't normally get a slot on Top of the Pops until you're in the top 30. Little did I realise, of course, that he was selling me a bum steer, because when I got to the studios, the Musicians Union had already gone on strike, and all the artists, instead of miming, had to sing live. And I freaked, because I hadn't really rehearsed this thing properly. And Top of the Pops studio in those days was like massive, and the orchestra would be literally 50, 100 yards away from the singer. So I had really bad fallback. Do you remember the nul point with the Eurovision Song Contest? Same thing with me. It wasn't their fault that they sung out of tune, it's just that they had bad feedback. So I was singing We'll Gather Lilacs in the Spring, and I was singing, correction, the orchestra was playing a quarter of a tone sharp throughout my performance. The whole orchestra. Other people would say I was a quarter tone flat, but whatever. And my late dear mother didn't even phone me the next day. It was So embarrassing. In fact, I'm the first person who actually can claim to have gone into the charts and fallen out of the charts the day after doing it. Nice thing to be proud of.
And stories to tell at dinner parties.
Absolutely.
The only one that did do well though is All With a Smile on My Face.
Yeah, that was my first foray into the pop charts, and I've always had a kind of belligerent attitude towards the media, and I think that the same applies today as it did then. That there are a lot of cool hit producers who think they know what the public want, and they don't. They just think they do, and there's a touch of emperor's clothes about it. And I can remember that Jack Barton had seen Smike, and he was the executive producer of Crossroads. And he and I met socially, and we hit it off from day one. And he said, I really want to use this song, Born With a Smile. It's been sent to me for 15... This is going back, by the way. I'm getting kind of caught between two issues here, Shirley. But you know I said earlier, always go for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was signed to ATV Music after Swine, the A&R boss came in and said to all the writers, okay, I need 15 seconds of background music for Crossroads. And all the writers went, oh, yawn, yawn, yawn. And me being the young enthusiastic, I said, Len, I've got this great Born With a Smile on My Face song. If you want it for 15 seconds background music, I'll get it out for you. And he sent it up to Crossroads. And Jack Barton heard the song, saw my name on it. He'd seen Smike the week before. So he got the name together and he phoned me up and said, I loved your show, Smike, and I love Born With a Smile on My Face. And it's not going to be 15 seconds background music. I'm going to make it into a massive feature on the show. And so Stephanie DeSykes, who I was singing with in the group Rain, we made the record. Stephanie got a lead part in Crossroads. The song was featured massively on Crossroads. And we were promoting the record, and this ties up with what I'm talking about, Emperor's Clothes and media cool producers. This producer was a friend of mine. I phoned him up and said, Tony, any chance of a play of Born With a Smile on My Face on Radio 1? And there was a hoot of laughter at the other end. He said, that record is so uncool, it's not going to happen in a million years. Of course you're not going to get a play. I said, no chance then? He said, absolutely no chance. Well, the following week it was played on Crossroads every day, and it zoomed straight in the charts and went straight to number 2. And I get this panic phone call from my mate at Radio 1. He said, Simon, we've got caught with our pants down. We haven't got a copy of the record. We've got the chart rundown tomorrow. Please, can you send me a record? And I won't swear, but I said, Tony, go and buy one. Go and buy it. That was a lovely, sweet moment.
More to Crossroads than Benny's hat.
Absolutely.
Writing for a sitcom is just not all you do. There's so much more to work in. In fact, I remember you coming to Swindon some time ago, and you were commissioned to write a song for the Eurovision Song Contest. And some might think, gosh, you've got this wonderful, quality, prolific writer, Eurovision Song Contest. Some would say no. Some might consider, but of course there are a man who always says yes.
Yes.
So you did.
And we did it for a delightful Wiltshire girl called Mimi.
You did.
And yeah, I can remember we always loved the song, and I felt it wasn't going right when we went to BBC for the run-through, and when all the artists, there were 8 in the semi-final, and they were all rehearsing the song, and then the producer of the run-through, this is before the voting, said, okay guys, we'd like to do a mock trial of the winner. We don't know who it is for the moment, but we'll do the winner actually rehearsing, getting the prize. And then the group that subsequently won was in this mock run-up. And when we saw that Mimi wasn't being lit in any of the pre-rehearsals, we had a kind of feeling, is this fixed? Because the producers obviously knew something that we didn't. And sadly, Mimi only came 4th. But if you all remember, that was the year that the UK got 0 points. So every loser wins.
She was a very talented young girl too, wasn't she?
Lovely girl, yeah.
So do you enjoy taking new talent and trying to develop them as well?
Very much so. Sorry, I'm pouring a glass of water. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a passionate believer in young people and their talent, and I think that the combination of youth and experience is an unstoppable formula for success. And the wonderful thing about youth is the arrogance that I love. And the wonderful thing about being a little bit older is that you have that arrogance which is matched by experience and the combination of the two. Can I show you on the piano? I mean, any young person in a rock band, they might take a chord sequence like, well, let's go back to Mozart. This is a Mozart chord sequence. So, what happens, I'm talking about the arrogance of youth. A young person takes that chord sequence and thinks they have invented it, which of course they haven't. It's been there all the time. When you're writing a hit song, there are only so many very limited chords. And you know, everybody plays on the piano. That's C, A minor, F, G. And I've given you one example where it can be used in those three songs I've played you. Here's another example. Instead of doing C, A minor, F, G, you can just invert it. You do A minor, F, C, G. That's all it is. Gary Barlow. Have a little bit of patience. And Hans Zimmer, everybody. I could improvise all night, which I won't bore you with. But if you take that fantastic chord sequence, A minor, F, C, G. I'm just making that up as I'm going on, but basically that is improvising on a really important chord sequence. Arrogance of youth, here we go. Here's another chord sequence. C, D minor, F, G. I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes. Or, same chords. Want you back, want you back, want you back for good. All the massive hits, all done. Here's another chord sequence. Very simple. C, E minor, F, D minor, C, F, G. Da 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 ba ba. Da 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 ba 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 ba. So every time you get a new rock band, they think they've discovered these chords. They haven't. They've always been there. They've always been fish in the sea to be caught. And the wonderful thing about working with young people, in answer to your question, is, Shirley, that they have this, I think arrogance is a bit unfair a word, they have this self-belief, this self-confidence that they can do anything. And our job is being more experienced, not cynical, because I'm not cynical, but more experienced, is that we can harness that energy and make it work. So yes, I love working with young people.
You probably recognise that because I think there's that in you too, isn't there?
Well, arrogance.
A desire to make things work in that way, absolutely.
Yeah, it is combined with arrogance, but it's also combined in knowing that everything is possible.
Indeed. And from television and music for the charts to writing for a film, 1988, your first opportunity.
Yep, with Anthony Hopkins and Hugh Grant. It was a wonderful movie and really enjoyed writing it. Sadly, I've never really had a proper career in Hollywood. I mean, you can't be greedy. I've had enough stuff in TV and hit songs.
Would you like to go to Hollywood? Is that?
Well, I've been to
Bit of a
Hollywood.
dream?
I've been to Hollywood several times, and a couple of years ago, Rosie and I went to Hollywood, and I just love Hollywood because you're allowed 2 minutes with anybody you meet. No more than 2 minutes. There's golden rule here. I was in the Beverly Hills Hotel with Rosie, and I saw Dolly Parton leaning over a grand piano in the bar room, and I couldn't resist. Well, that's whatever. And I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist going out and saying, "Hey, Dolly, hi, it's me, Simon Main." She said, "Hi, great to see you." And we had our 2 minutes delightful conversation, and then you know instinctively when that moment is over, and that you are pushing your luck if you go beyond that time. But the thing about Hollywood, it's so awesomely superficial, and I just love that, because in a kind of way I'm not a superficial person, but as an escape for a holiday, I'm not sure working in Hollywood full time would be necessarily my cup of tea, but I swear before my career's over I'm going to write a hit movie score.
Knowing you probably will. The Dawning was the film we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that did reasonably well too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and it was a very successful cult movie, but it wasn't like a smash hit movie. But it's something I'm proud of. It's part of my career. It's a great tune, and it had an awesome performance by a guitarist called Alan Murphy. Any music aficionados who've not heard of Alan Tarney, I'd be surprised. I mean, are you a guitarist?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Alan Murphy? Check him out on
No.
Google. You have. I could tell you were a guitarist, and Alan was absolutely iconic, and his guitar solo on The Dawning is something quite awesome. So check it out on Google.
Any particular questions you want to ask Simon? Anybody got a particular question? Lisa?
I wondered what you thought when they put words to the EastEnders theme. Did you write them, or the Anyone Can Fall in Love? That's not hard to do.
Great question, and in fact, I did a kind of 2 for 1 with Don Black, 2 for the price of 1. When he'd written the lyrics to Howard's Way, I thought, well, you've done a great job on Always There with Marty Webb. Don, why don't you write the lyrics for the EastEnders theme? I'd had hundreds of letters from members of the public offering their own lyrics, and I thought that the safest way to proceed was to get a bona fide lyricist like Don Black to actually write the lyrics. I could have done it myself maybe, but although writing a lyric and putting the lyric into the EastEnders theme was a bit dangerous, because actually the EastEnders theme is not a song, and it doesn't lend itself to a song. Da, 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 da. It's not. Whatever lyric you put there, it's going to be a little bit kind of bland. I liked the lyrics for Anyone Can Fall in Love, but because it was such a bland marriage of lyrics and music, I think a lot of people missed the point that Don's lyric was actually very clever. Because if you look at the concept, anyone can fall in love, yeah, that's the easy part, but to stay in love is the hardest part of a successful marriage. Now that's actually quite a deep thought. Because when people, going back to my TV show when I was watching the worst moments on television, I forgot to tell you guys that it wasn't just me singing We'll Gather Lilacs, it was also Benny's theme and Anyone Can Fall in Love. I hit 3 of the worst moments on British TV in one night with Kenny Everett. But then my response to that is quite a what's the word? Strident one. It's only when you've got success that you are therefore being criticised. I'd love to be criticised more often for getting a number 1 with Every Loser Wins. And, you know, every time I have a big hit, I'm getting criticised. And that criticism is the consequence of a high profile and not a few jealous souls who would have loved to have been there, I have to say.
Take Cliff Richard, how much more criticised can you get? But he's still there, he's still selling, still singing,
Absolutely.
and still recording, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've worked with him too, haven't you?
Yeah, I was very lucky to, Cliff recorded More to Life, which was the theme song to Trainer, which was the follow to Howard's Way. And Mike Reed, who's a good friend of mine, he wrote the lyrics to the Trainer theme, took it round to Cliff, and Cliff loved it, and it was a big hit. And I'm very proud of that as well. And since then, fortunately, Cliff, Rosie and I, and all of the Cliff gang, we've remained good friends, and we've been very, very blessed at enjoying lots of lunches at Wimbledon with Cliff, and lots of parties, and his 50th, was it 50th or 60th birthday cruise was an absolute joy. We met so many wonderful people on that ship.
Which shows true talent, doesn't it? Talking of tennis, when tennis, of course, Wimbledon gets rained off. You'll remember just a few years ago when he actually took the whole crowd and sang and entertained, and he just got up there and sang himself. And going back to the Top of the Pops days, how many of those artists who couldn't sing live would have been able to do that?
Yeah, you're right, Shirley. Although I have to say that a lot of the young bands who are performing now, I think, actually are very, very talented.
Well, when you watch, don't watch it very often, but X Factor, the artists are actually forced to sing,
yes,
unaccompanied, completely on their own, to show that they actually got a talent.
Yeah.
So that's probably one good element of the programme.
Yeah, no, I think X Factor is probably one of the only few vehicles that enables young performers to find an outlet for their talent. One of the tragedies of the music business today is that in the old days you could take a punt. Record companies now are running scared of investing money unless it's proved to be successful. And the X Factor is the only chance really for an unknown singer, apart from going on the internet and YouTube, which is another substantial opportunity. The X Factor is really, well, I think Simon Cowell discovered what I discovered in the 70s, that you can use television.
And he knows how to use it well, doesn't he?
He does indeed, yeah. He's a nice guy too, by the way.
Yes. If you have any particular questions, just raise your hand as we go along. You're more than welcome to. Tim?
Yeah, my name's Tim Friend. What fascinates me about your music, Simon, is the fact that it is so rich, and it comes over as a very rich piece of music, whatever it is, whether the EastEnders, Herod's Way theme, or any other work you've done. What do you think of TV music today?
Well, taking the first part of your question, Tim, thank you so much for what is a truly lovely comment, which I appreciate. I am passionate about what I write. I've been very lucky to have had a very religious upbringing, singing in choirs, so church music has always been a very important, fundamental part of me. So is loving Mozart, but also singing in a rock band when I was at Cambridge. So there's a kind of synthesis of all these different things, and truly when I'm writing a song or a piece of music, and this is answering the second part of your question, I'm not in the business of emperor's clothes. I have been fortunate to be unfashionably successful for 33 years. And the reason for that is that I've stayed true to myself. And I don't look over my shoulder and say, I'm going to write a song because that's what's cool and what's hip. I write a song because that's what I believe in. And when I am writing a music, thank you so much for the comment about richness. I have three criteria as to whether I know I'm writing something special. The first is I have to have goose pimples. And if I don't get goose pimples, cool.
Your music.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
When I bought your album, Summer's Way, you know what I mean, vinyl, not CD, it really got to me. You know.
That's really kind. I'm going to shake your hand at the end of this meeting. The second criterion is that I need to have an upsurge coming through, so I feel this powerful thing. And the ultimate criterion is when I'm crying because I haven't received my royalties. That's a joke. No, and when I write something really truly good, I actually do. I do actually cry. And I can remember we are blessed to be standing here today as another year is over, through the seasons in the sun and rain, when we laughed and played and cried again. Those memories will never go away. Onwards and upwards we will fly, like a bird whose wings can touch the sky. Nothing can stop us reaching the sky. On a high we say goodbye, but au revoir means I'll see you again. And that's a school song I wrote, which happens, and there's a school, my special needs school, sing that at the end of every summer term. They have done for the last 8 years, and that's their leavers song. And when I wrote that, sorry to get a little bit, but you started, Tim, getting emotional. I'm going to have to copy you. No, I'm going to have to copy you because
You're a big softie, really, aren't you?
I am a softie, but it's more than being soft. I truly, truly believe that on the special moments when I'm writing a really, really, really good song, that it's God-given, and that I'm a conduit, and that I'm just a pure vehicle, and it's just coming through me. And that's what I believe. Doesn't apply to everything I write, unfortunately. Some of it is due to mercenary pressures and rather anal commissioning editors and producers and directors who want stuff that I'm not really comfortable about giving them. But when I write, I mean, I don't know if that moved you or not, but that's a lever song, and it's all about love and something special. And that song has never earned me a penny, but, well, a few pennies, but that's not the point. What you truly believe in is what matters more than making money.
Simon.
Bruce.
Simon, did you ever, first one's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek one really, were you very conscious, we saw a picture of you there on top of the pots in your young day, were you ever conscious in devices that being the young, good-looking man you were, all of us from the avenues, we never got a look in with you. You were so popular with the girls at church, etc. I've got to say, and I've known Simon a long time, but I've never... I've always wondered if you were conscious of the fact you had a gift of looks, a gift of ability at a young age, and if you did, were you ever concerned about the likes of me who was always looking up to you?
I'll tell you what, a load of checks being paid out at the end of this question. Bruce, yes, you and I are friends from a long time, and the truth is, God's truth, you say wonderful things about me being allegedly good looking. It never occurred to me, but that's the honest truth. Having said that, I always believed that I did have a special talent in writing music. I do believe that, and I always felt very special about being able to perform on the piano and sing and write music. Funnily enough, going back and looking at that, I wasn't that bad looking at it then. I didn't feel that at the time, no. And I certainly wouldn't have wished to have competed against you, Bruce. And to be honest, one of my greatest...
Well, you didn't, I won this one.
and to be honest, one of the loves of my life, and we won't mention names in the public domain, I was madly in love with her, and she didn't get it. So no, I didn't win every love suit that I aspired to. But thank you for those kind words.
The winner sometimes loses. You have the question?
Yes. Simon, your music spans every kind of genre, and you started off, from what we can see from the film, you've done pop star, you've done that, you've been there, you've been a pop star, you're a composer, you're a performer, you're a musician. Your show music, Smike in particular, is really inspirational for young people. My favourite number from that show is Believe, and it's one that my youth group do all the time. I love it. What inspires you to write?
Thanks for the kind words again. I mean, historically, I think I would have, you know, I was a great fan of Cliff Richard, and I was like everybody else, holding a tennis racket in front of the mirror of my bedroom, pretending to be a rock star. And I always wanted to be a very successful longevity rock singer. And to be honest, although I was a choral scholar, in hindsight, me being a singer was not the destiny that I should have taken. And in fact, that was proved very early on in my career when I was teaching at Kingston Grammar School, and I had my first record out on Decca Records, and this was before I sung out of tune on We'll Gather Lilacs, by the way. And all the kids went out and bought my record because I'd been on the Basil Brush show. And I thought, whoa, yeah, I've made it as a singer. And I made friends with the manageress at HMV Music, and I used to go in for a few days and I'd say, how's the record doing? She said, yeah, you're in our top 3 in the whole of Kingston. Absolutely awesome. And then we didn't get any more radio play, and I went in and saw her a week or 2 later. I said, how's the record doing? She looked a bit solemn and she said, well, she said, yesterday we sold 1 copy and today wasn't quite so busy. So, at which point I realised that me being a singer was not my destiny. To take your question slightly less frivolously, Carol, I think that being a writer is all about passionately finding a vehicle and a situation where you can write something meaningful. So that school song, I mean, I'm so moved every time I hear these special needs kids singing at the end of the term, and you see these kids going out into the big wide world singing onwards and upwards we will go. And so that kind of sentiment, that emotion, is what we as writers always try to do. And Smike was all about, I was teaching at Kingston Grammar School when bullying was rife, and it was an allegorical criticism of the bullying regime in those days. And therefore it was a very ill-disguised, passionate critique of the culture that existed at the time. So when you had Nicholas Nickleby singing to Smike, if you think that you're a loser, you're never going to win. You'll never change your situation unless you think and then begin. So get up, go on, go everywhere, and clouds will leave your mind, 'cause the only one to make it will be you. Don't let life get you down, even though the world might let you down, 'cause dangers in the darkness are only in your mind. Better keep your eyes wide open, look around. And that's the anthem of belief, and hoping that this young bullied Swine will not give way to a tyrannical Mr. Squeers in Toothboy's Hall. But that's also a metaphor for every child when I wrote the musical, and every child today who is bullied. And I feel as strongly about that as I did when I wrote that song. And it's very basic. It's all very basic primary colours. Don't let life get you down, even though the world might let you down. But I've, in my career, had loads of letters from people who've had deep suffering, who've been inspired by that message and who have found comfort from that music and that song. And to be honest, yeah, it'd be great to earn £1 million every year. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a commercial writer. But I've fortunately had a marriage of writing stuff like EastEnders and Every Loser Wins, which has been balanced by songs and music that touch my heart and touch other people's hearts without necessarily being commercially astronomically successful. And I suppose it goes back to my true inspiration. It is absolutely criminal that dear Mozart was thrown into a not only that, Shirley. Sorry, I got carried away then and I was forgetting you're asking me the questions. But Mozart was thrown into a pauper's grave, for goodness sake. And he wrote the most awesome music. And so you could look at visual artists who've had the same problem, that they've in their lifetime not actually had recognition for the best of their work. But c'est la vie.
One question I know that's often asked of musicians is how do you start to compose? It's not easy, is it? There's different stories every time. And you wanted to use that experience as well with an experiment with the audience this evening.
Yeah, should we do that?
Let's do that.
Before I do that, I'll tell you a quick story. How many minutes have we got before we go into
How many do you want?
whatever it takes?
Go on then.
But before we do that, in answer to your question, Sami Khan, the great lyricist, was asked the same question. You know, how do you write a song, and what comes first? And he said, "What you mean, the lyrics or the music or whatever?" And the questioner said, "Yeah, which comes first?" He said, "The phone call." Yeah, I thought we'd have a bit of fun. We haven't got time tonight to actually write a song together. It's something that I'm developing in a show that I'm developing with NMP Live, who are very kindly here tonight. We're going to put on a show that goes around into situations where people have the chance to write a song with me. And that takes longer than 10-15 minutes. But we can do the first stages of that song. So I've already demonstrated to you that chord sequences are very, very, very important. Lyrics are also vital. You need to tell a story. So the bricks of a hit song are improvising round a good chord sequence, a lovely top line. When we say top line, we mean a melody. Okay, so that's a really good melody and a lyric. And the other most important thing is the structure of a song. So let me just try to give you some idea. I haven't really rehearsed this, so it's pretty loose, but if you think of a song, Shirley, you all know what one bar is, don't you? So like, if there's 4 beats in a bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 2, 2, 3. It's like a chair that's got 4 legs. A chair is 1 bar, and the 4 legs are the 4 beats in a chair, if you get that simile. Metaphor? Here we go. So, let's have an intro. 1, 2, 3. This is the intro. Bar 3, 2, 3. Bar 4. Here's the verse. It's gonna tell a story and grabs the listener every time. Metaphors and similes, like climbing hills and crossing seas. And hopefully it's gonna end with a rhyme, and then a bridge that moves you on 4 bars to the chorus. Here we go. You've gotta have a chorus with a strong melody. You gotta have a hook that stays in your memory. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. That's the end of chorus 1, and here's verse 2. That carries on the story and keeps the listener every time. With metaphors, you shouldn't repeat yourself, but I haven't done my homework. Like climbing hills and crossing seas, and hopefully another rhyme. And if you're Simon Cowell, you'll take a modulated key. And here's the chorus once again. Do you get the prop? So it's like if you're building a house. I could have finished it, but we're short of time. But if you're building a house, you would not put the bathroom at the entrance to the hall. You would keep the bathroom in its appropriate position. And if you don't get the structure of the song that I've started to show you, it won't happen. So, structure, chord sequence, top line, and lyrics. And then the magic beyond that, which is where I'm going to put you guys into an embarrassing situation. We're going to explore the art of improvisation. So we've got a chord sequence that John and I have concocted. We're going to play it off the CD. I'm going to take a microphone and I'm going to go round, and we're going to operatically sing to each other. If you don't want to sing or don't perform, just hold your head down.
They've all done it. No, don't.
And then I will make sure that it's you that I do. Okay, so, what stage are we at, Matt?
There's a microphone here.
Okay, all this is demonstrating is that we're making up a song. We can't go into the whole thing because we haven't got time, but what we can at least do is show you that nothing is tablets of stone. You can make up a song. So we've got a structure, we've got a backing track, we haven't really got a top line, and we certainly haven't got any lyrics, and I'm going to go around, we're going to have a bit of fun, okay? Don't be embarrassed, please join in. Here we go. Bar 3, yes, it's gonna be you. My name is Simon. What's your name? 3, 4, go.
My name is Louis.
Give us Brian, that's great. And what's the name of the pretty girl sitting on your right? Your name is Brittany. So you would sing, Brittany's my name, Brittany's my name, Brittany's her name, Brittany's her name. Good boy, well done. Let's go around. What's your name? My name is Catherine. Whoa, that's great. And what do you think of what has gone on tonight? Very good indeed. Thank you for the compliment. I won't ask you, or else I won't get a job this year. Modulating now. Have you enjoyed tonight?
Yes, I have.
Whoa! Are you a professional singer?
Unfortunately, I'm not.
But I'm gonna carry on this conversation because it strikes me that you're very good. How old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
Oh, that's such a lovely face. Where are you studying?
St. Joseph's Catholic College.
Give her a round of applause. And I mean, we could go on. Do you want this to go on, or should we stop there? I think we've made the point. We've missed a hold up. Can you start the whole thing again, Matt? And we're gonna embarrass this part. Hey, I've got to say, you guys are really up to that. That was awesome. So good. Here we go. Let's change the subject. What were you doing yesterday?
I was a
What you do for a living?
I'm retired now.
Are you pleased that it's like that?
It's a great life.
What you do in your spare time when you're not working hard?
I like to play.
You are so in tune. This young man is trying to avoid me, but he's not gonna get away. What's your name? Liam. Liam, are you Irish or English? Irish. And where'd you come from? This is the last question. He's gone all hot. We just modulated. What's your name? Okay, let's make it easy. What day is it today? Is it Monday or Tuesday? Tuesday. Well done. You see, you don't have to sing and tune. You can say what you like. Have you enjoyed tonight?
I have.
What's the best part of tonight?
Not singing.
writing thing, Shirley, are you happy to take that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Is that it's not rocket science. Anybody can write a song. It's if you know the bricks, if you know the chords, if you know the structure, if you're able to tell a story, if you're able to improvise, you can actually write a song. That is, of course, being slightly self-deprecating because there are skills and experience and all the stuff that you need, let alone arranging, let alone producing, let alone persuading a record company, let alone promoting it on radio to get a hit record. But that essentially is, you know, I can't paint to save my life. And if I had time, I'd love to go to an Irish painter I know in Ireland and just spend a week with the family and just learn how to paint, because I'm sure he could teach me how to paint. I can't paint at the moment. And this notion, everybody, I'm kind of flattered, Shirley, that people say to me, oh, Simon, you're talented. Well, yeah, it's God-given, but it's not that unique, and it's a question of what you do with what you're given, is my passionate belief.
Everybody is individually unique, aren't they? And it's making the most of our own individual abilities, very much so. So what would you say to our young aspiring musicians over here?
Okay. In a way, it's tougher than it's ever been, because there are more people now trying to make it in the rock industry. In another way, it's not as tough because you can pull rank and you can use the internet and YouTube and all of that stuff to create a genuine fan following. And I suppose my advice to any young person, which is the advice I've given to my daughter Daisy, who wants to be an actress, and like I said, she's just got her first job on a major ITV show, bless her heart, after leaving college after 1 month. My advice to any young person who wants to make it in show business, or in any industry for that matter, is to be committed, always to create excellence and do your best every day, to be very honest, and that aspect has always been underlooked so much, because without honesty you're not going to make it, and that means honesty with other people and honesty with yourself, and the inability to understand the word no. That kind of sums up in a very short sentence what I feel. Talking about the honesty thing, I always remember that when El Dorado was made for BBC, I had written a musical 5 years earlier, and I'd written a song called And When You Go Away, You Gotta Tell Me Where You're Going To, and I won't mind when you go away. And that tune came from a musical I'd written 5 years ago, and two boys were on the same session with me in that musical 5 years ago, and I then revamped that tune, Shirley, and I took it to Julia Smith, the producer, and I said, Julia, this is a song that I wrote 5 years ago for a musical, and I've rearranged it with Spanish guitars, and I think it really, really works. You have to know that it wasn't written specially for you, but it was arranged specially for you. She said, I appreciate the honesty, I absolutely love it, we're going to use it. So she and Verity Lambert used it for El Dorado. And I hate to say this, but a couple of months later, those two boys who were on the original session, for reasons best known to them, couldn't resist phoning her up out of sheer spite and saying, well, you do realise that Simon wrote this song 5 years ago? She said, yes, he told me. And that's my point. That because I'd been honest, I was safe. I told her that I'd written it for something else, so I was untouchable. And I can't lie to people because I can't remember what I said to them. So honesty is
Very wise philosophy.
well, it's held me in good stead, touch wood or knock on wood, for a long time.
Of course, cue for another song.
Which I can't play. That was the recording. No, that was Amy Stewart, knock on wood.
Absolutely. Which was actually, I thought, last time I saw that played was on TV yesterday. Still being played.
Great.
And a question from Matt. Are you going to ask it yourself?
Oh yeah, I would like to know, every time the EastEnders theme is played on the BBC, pardon me if I've been rude, but how much do you get paid?
Now, I have a stock answer to that, which I've used on radio, and forgive me because I've already used this answer, but what was the question? What do I get paid? And the answer is not as much as if I got paid £1 for every time I was asked that question. Seriously, the Performing Rights Society is a very, very complicated setup, and it would take me 5-10 minutes to explain it all, but each channel has a different rating, has a different value. So, for example, the BBC pays the Performing Rights Society, of which we're all writer members, about 60,000 writers in PRS, and the BBC, for all its TV channels and radio channels and overseas service, pays the Performing Rights Society X million pounds. It's probably about £20 million, 25, which is not a lot of money. If you think that no television programme or radio programme had any music, whoa, you've got a bit of a gap there, haven't you? So that is not an extortionate amount of money to pay for music to be used on the media. What then happens is, and that happens with all the different stations, so the Performing Rights Society takes in its £25 million from the BBC. It then apportions the amount that goes to BBC One, BBC Two, Radio 1, Radio 2, Radio 3, 4, 5, etc. And each station therefore has a value. And if I've written EastEnders, and which I have, and I then have my number of minutes that BBC Television use EastEnders a week, which is probably 10 minutes, which is probably 500 minutes a year, I will receive from Performing Rights Society 500 minutes over the number of minutes that has been used on BBC Television times the amount that has been apportioned to PRS by the BBC. It's all computerised, but you get the plot. In reality, I think that BBC Television, at the moment, its ratings are about £35 to £40 a minute. Prime time is more expensive paid than in the middle of the night. Although I have to say, I get more money from music I've written for ITV in the middle of the night than I do get for EastEnders, because it's more, there you are. But, so, probably EastEnders, 15k a year-ish, which takes care of one of my 4 children. But that's a very approximate and unquotable figure.
So what next for Simon May?
John, Simon and I are working, we're just finishing off, we've done some really amazing songs for Universal Production Music, love songs to go on a feel-good album which gets distributed all around the world. And that's what used to be called library music, but it's now very, very special because apart from main movies and very high prominent drama series, most music now that gets played on television and radio is from a source that is used off the wall, if you like. So we've written these delightful songs which they're really excited about, and that means that those songs will be played for the next foreseeable 20-30 years that will generate performing rights income. We don't get paid anything up front. When I wrote EastEnders, I was only paid £50 commissioning fee, but that was in the knowledge that it was going to generate performing rights. So that's one big project. We've got plans for developing an artist who we really believe in, and the trouble now is, of course, that you can't just develop an artist and put the record out, because radio and TV are very, what's the word I'm looking for? They only pick what they think are the winners. So if they think that a record company is going to put a lot of money into an artist, they say, oh, that's going to be a good artist. They don't use their ears. It's emperor's clothes all over again. So we're thinking of getting some inward investment into a major production of an artist that we believe in. We're looking at all other options for television music, jingles, which are not called jingles anymore, they're called commercials, and that elusive hit song. That elusive hit song.
It'll be there. She's actually launching the fact that Simon has taken on the role of a patron of Swindon 105.5, supporting the work we do with both music and young people and disabilities as well. So encompassing quite a lot of your passions as well. So if that artist does record, we'll be the first one to play it.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Well,
thank you. Any questions before I ask Simon to play us a final piece?
Yeah, me again, Tim Friend. Yeah, I'm glad you're going to be the patron of Swindon 105.5. I'm a great fan of this station, and the person next to me would rather listen to another radio station. Anyway, that's beside the point. I'm glad you're going to be about. You're going to visit Swindon occasionally, and
whenever it's possible. It won't be 24/7, Tim.
No.
I'm going to Devizes, Wiltshire, Stedford in November to meet all the winners and, well, not just the winners, all the participants. And I hope very much that Shirley and I will make it possible for me to actively encourage the young people, and well, not just the young people, all the people who are working on the station. And that will definitely happen, but I don't know when.
it's a really good thing, and I really enjoyed it this year. We had the final in the Wyvern, 6-7 weeks ago now.
This is a talent competition.
Yes, great.
It's a talent competition, but it's brought out a lot of new talent in Swindon, and I hope I'm right, there are going to be 1 or 2 people we're going to hear on the radio
Well, I
in
hope
the years to come.
I hope you're right, Tim, and it's great that you believe in it.
I do.
Well, the young girl who took the role, she actually took winner of the junior section. She's already now recorded, and she's just won another competition. She'd never sung in public before, coming to an audition for Swindon Talent.
Wow.
Something we started at the radio station with a local newspaper, and never sang apart from in her bedroom. And she got through to the finals and won the junior section. She's now recorded her first CD. We should be hearing that on the station next week.
That's great.
So indeed. So we've got one CD in front of me. This one I think is available too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon online. It's not very expensive, and it's got all my biggest hit on it.
All of it.
All of it.
Excellent. Amongst lots of other things too. It's absolutely brilliant. So super souvenir, and we're looking out for the new one as well.
Yeah.
It should be ready when?
That won't be commercially released because that's going into media usage. So Universal will market that through all their Hollywood and Australia and South Africa, all their offices. So
you'll get back to Hollywood somehow.
I'll make it one day. No, my relationship with Hollywood is probably the same as most people's. It's a love-hate relationship. I just love the razzmatazz of it, and yeah, there's something very special about Hollywood that. In fact, we've written one song, you can actually hear it on this album, it's called One More Chance, and it's all about a Hollywood actor who thanks his director because she actually had faith in him when he blew his chance on recording the movie for her, and he made a lot of mistakes, but she gave him one more chance. And it's all about Hollywood, the Hall of Fame. It's called One More Chance, it's on the album, it's one of my favourite songs.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's absolutely delightful to hear more from the music of Simon May. Thank you so much for coming to see us. Much appreciated indeed.
Really great
Ladies and
pleasure.
gentlemen, Simon May. It must be very difficult, I know, if I asked you to find one piece to leave us with.
Well,
what do you reckon?
Well, we went really spontaneously tonight. I was going to finish with Howard's Way, but I played that. The problem with Summer of My Life is you've heard it sung probably better in 1976 than I'm going to sing it now. And it's a bit like policemen are getting younger. It seems to me that not only are policemen getting younger today, but the actual pitch of Summer of My Life seems to be getting higher as every time I sing it, if musicians understand. I'll have a go with it and see how it goes. This is Summer of My Life, dedicated to my dear wife Rosie. I don't know if any of you heard Randy Edelman, who's about the same era as me. He was trying to sing Up-Tempo Woman live on Radio 2 a few weeks ago, and he did exactly the same with me in the last chorus. He went down an inversion, because I'll tell you what, that was a very high song to sing in 1976. And now, whoa. I hope it's okay for you though. Did you enjoy it? Thank you.
Mozart to rock, passion, I think, for life and for music. Once again, Simon May.
Thanks, guys.